Good evening, everybody. This is Vince Lee here on Thursday, September 4th, day 96 so far of my year-long birthday quest. This is now the second day so far where I have no Facebook friends with listed birthdays. So just like day 54, I'm using this as an opportunity to give thanks and pay special tribute to those very important people in my life who are no longer with us. Today's theme is in memory of my wonderful teacher and mentor, Maestro James DePreist. For any of you that don't know his story, particularly those of you in the music world, you absolutely should. This is a man that overcame so many different levels of adversity and became one of the most important American figures in classical music in his time. He was also one of the kindest, most gracious people you would ever possibly meet. I can't even begin to put into words how important it was and how amazing it was to have this man as a mentor and teacher. He was also an absolutely brilliant man, so incredibly versed across a vast array of subjects. And in his 70s, he still had this deep hunger for knowledge, which was incredibly inspiring. He was also a very funny guy and had the perfect timing to unleash the right joke at just the right moment. There's one particular joke that sticks with me, which is going to have to wait for that proverbial book I'm going to write, but it involved a shirt that a classmate of mine was wearing, and the joke was an 11 on the scale of 1 to 10. Completely out of left field and absolutely hilarious. Mr. DePreist always seemed to get a kick out of my sense of humor, which was a lot of fun. So many different stories to share from my 3 years in New York. This particular one deals a bit with the sense of humor, and it deals with my audition at Juilliard. I was the final auditionee in front of the orchestra, and when I walk into the room, of course I'm my usual self, so I have a big smile on my face. I'm very excited to be there. And the reaction of the orchestra when I walked into the room was very interesting because it was almost like there was this huge sigh of relief, a lot of big smiles on the players' faces, a few friendly giggles. Months later, I found out from some of the musicians that he said something to them before I walked in, and it was something along the lines of, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, I warn you that entering the room is a very frightening and imposing figure." And then I walk in like, woohoo! Also, I was so sick with the flu when I auditioned, so my head wasn't really quite on right. So after the audition, I went up to Mr. DePreist and thanked him and, kept a clear distance because I was still kind of contagious. But I thanked him so much for inviting me to the audition. And so he asks me, "Now, Vince, you didn't check out any apartments or anything for next year in New York, right?" And so I responded, "Oh, no, not yet." And he goes, "Well, good, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't waste your time with that." And then he says, "Vince, you didn't apply anywhere else, did you?" And I say, "No." And he goes, "Big mistake." And of course my head is so addled with the flu, I'm like, wait, is he messing with me, or is he joking, or is he being serious? In fact, it was actually his wife, Jeanette, that could tell I was in a bit of distress, and she rescued me by saying, "Vince, he's just messing with you, it's okay." Another great story that really sticks with me. Usually I'm really good and conscientious about certain things, especially things like how you spell your teacher's name. But somehow in the first emails I was sending to him, I was spelling his last name wrong, and to this day I have no idea how that happened. But anyways, it was the second or third week of school, and we were having our weekly meeting in his apartment. So he initiated a conversation about how to market oneself as a young conductor, including the materials you need to get, the type of avenues you should be looking for, etc. So he started talking about some promotional materials that had been made for him, and then he mentioned to us that they spelled his last name incorrectly on these materials, and they spelled it D-E-P-R-I-E-S-T instead of D-E-P-R-E-I-S-T. So of course it hits me in that moment that, oh no, how could I have possibly made that mistake? As mortified as I was about that absolutely disastrous mistake, looking back, what a beautiful and kind way for him to let me know very gently that I was spelling his last name wrong in those emails. I was incredibly lucky to have two amazing teachers at Indiana University, and the amount of growth I had there, the experience that I got, couldn't possibly put it into words. And then Mr. DePreist was the perfect mentor at the absolutely perfect time to be able to work with that man on such a high level, and he had such absolute faith and unwavering confidence in me. Mr. DePreist was also someone that was inspired by a wide variety of different musical sources, and he and I would have the most awesome conversations about music of all different genres. 3 of the musical quotes that I use come from one of the greatest popular artists of all time, and an artist that he and I both are very big fans of. The final musical quote I use is a symphonic one, and it comes from a piece that ended up being a 2-year running joke in our class. It was a piece that I was very excited about, and Mr. DePreist, for very good reason, was skeptical about, and he gleefully used the composer's name and the symphony as a punchline throughout my 2-year career at Juilliard. He did actually assign that piece to me for one of my final class reading sessions before I graduated. The main theme from the third movement of that symphony fits perfectly over the harmonies of a famous tune from that popular artist, so it was absolutely meant to be, and it becomes the second half of this theme. Thank you so much, Mr. DePreist, for your guidance, inspiration, leadership, and your faith in me. I know you'd get a real kick out of this theme, especially this one final punchline from this romantic symphony.